In County Tipperary in the 12th century, a hermit monk was praying under a large tree when he was interrupted by 4 thieves demanding the treasures of his monastery. The humble monk insisted he had no treasure and lived an austere, isolated life in devotion to God. Mocking him, the bandits demanded he perform a miracle and make the branches of the tree bend down and touch the earth. The monk pleaded with them not to test the Lord, but the divine had other plans. Suddenly, the tree shook, and its branches arched down to the ground. When the enraged bandits went to push the limbs away, their hands stuck to the tree. Suddenly, the branches sprung back to their original positions, and the 4 robbers were left hanging from the tree by their hands. 2 days later, King Donal Mór O'Brien came to the site and asked the monk what happened. Upon hearing the story, he ordered his men take down the bandits and a monastery be built on the site. Unable to free their hands, the thieves were cut down at their wrists and their hands remained in the tree, and thus the place became known as the Church of the 8 Hands. The Cistercian Monastery was established on the site after 1169. Around 1233, Queen Isabella of Angoulême chose to honor the monastery for their kindness in bearing her son, Piers the Fair, who was murdered nearby, by bequeathing the abbey with a relic of the true cross, the cross on which Jesus was hung, and the place became known as Holycross. This was the era of the Crusades, and this holy antiquity made Holycross extremely popular, and coupled with the monastery's reputation for hospitality, the religious community became exceptionally wealthy. In honor of Queen Isabella, there's a monument carved from Tipperary blue limestone recognizing the Good Woman's Son, which is said to be the finest example of medieval furniture in Ireland. Around 1400, the most powerful family in Ireland, the Butlers of Ormond, financed renovations of the abbey and acquired a second relic which became known as the Ormond Relic. In an unusual twist of fate, the prince son of Queen Isabella, who was buried near Holycross, and the very reason for its success as a pilgrim location, was also the half-brother to Henry III of England, whose successor, Henry VIII, generations later, would suppress the abbey in 1536. The relics, also called the Holy Rood, were publicly venerated until 1632, until the abbey was abandoned in 1633. 333 years later, in 1966, a community effort led to a landmark decision that changed the abbey's status from national monument to a place of worship. After this change in designation, Holycross undertook one of the most extensive and courageous restoration projects in Irish history. The church was tediously restored with local craftsmen and laborers, with no funding required from the state. The relics were gifted back to Holycross by the Ursuline nuns in Cork who had been safeguarding them, and the site is again an active parish and pilgrim destination. In 2011, 2 thieves wearing balaclavas arrived at Holycross armed with an angle grinder. They cut the reliquary holding a piece of the true cross from the wall, as well as another relic, and fled. Very little has been made public about the investigation into the crime, but a few months later, the antiquities were recovered and they are again on display at Holycross. However, they're now a bit more secure. If you visit Holycross, be sure to light a candle, view the monument to the Good Woman's Son. It looks like an ornate wall seat for 3 people. Inspect the medieval drawings on the wall near the reliquaries, and make note of the great east window behind the altar. A reproduction was installed at the basilica at the shrine at Knock to represent the province of Munster. You can also observe the Stations of the Cross in the courtyard, which are the work of Enrico Manfrini, who designed Pope Francis's ring, as well as the Stations of the Cross in the garden, where you might notice likenesses to Padre Pio and Pope John Paul II in the carvings of Christ's Passion. Oh, and for fans of the Cranberries, the late Dolores O'Riordan married Don Burton at Holycross in 1994. Now, this part of Tipperary offers some extraordinary sites of interest. While you're in the area, you can visit the nearby Rock of Cashel, explore the extensive ruins of Athassel Priory, check out the knitwear and porcelain of Cyril Cullen and his family at Farney Castle, climb to the top of the Devil's Bit, or catch a Gaelic football or hurling match at historic Semple Stadium. Thank you for visiting the Irish Fireside. My name's Corey. You'll find more information in the video description or at irishfireside.com, podcast episode 160. There's also an incredible collection of offbeat sites just waiting for you to discover them at irelandtravelkit.com.